So, in case you haven't heard yet, I am moving to Phoenix, Arizona in a month. I don't know why my husband laughed at that one.
He's going too, right?
Yeah, Tom Hollow's like, he's going too, right? I'm like, I don't know now, Tom. I think so. So I had another topic picked out for today, and then this week all I kept hearing was finding yourself in transition, finding yourself in transition. So can't imagine why I decided to pick up Robert Brummett's book, Finding Yourself in Transition, but I did. Yeah, we're in transition between homes right now. Our home sold in 5 days. Good news for all of you Californians, right? Transition this week at work as Reverend Sherry Hersey starts to shadow me. And I know the board and her like, wow, with the emails. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just unloading them all on you all. So that transition with family. Our older son, Julian, got a job back here in Burbank, California. So he's moving back here from Florida. We're moving to Arizona. It's like, let me talk about transition, everybody. Wow. And of course, the church is in transition. It's always true for an organization when you go from one leader to the next, even if it's, pretty good to great, it's still a transition, right? So, so there's always transitions in life. And maybe right now you have a transition or a change happening in your life. Is there a change happening in your life right now? Is it just me and Tommy Reeves here? Yeah. Maybe. No, you're resisting change, right? This is what you've been telling me. I remember when I first taught this class and read this book in 2019, and it was so great and it stuck with me. And it comes down to when we're in the midst of transitions, when we're in the midst of life changes, you start with the ending. The transition starts with the ending. And then comes what Robert Brummett calls the void, and then a new beginning. And that void includes walking in the wilderness, like Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt. It can be dirty and bumpy and feel like 40 years. And then a plan unfolds and there's a new beginning. A wise man once said to me, the only thing you can count on is death, taxes, and change. And even death and taxes are change. That was my dad. I didn't want to hear it. But that's the truth, right? That change is a part of life because we're divine beings. We're part of the energy of life. We're the outworking of creative life source. So just like nature, we are going to experience the ebbs and flows of life. Trees drop their leaves, right? And then new leaves come and they're green and then they change color and they drop the leaves again. A caterpillar crawls along and then cocoons and then emerges a butterfly. So we too, throughout our life, change both externally and internally. Are you the same person you were 5 years ago? 5 years ago was 2019, everybody. I know, it feels like, I know. But yes, 5 years ago was 2019. Are you the same person you were in 2019? Is your life the same as it was in 2019? I'm going to say no, because we were all lived through a pandemic. And thank you, we're all here, yeah? And you made it through those changes. Who you were 5 years ago, where you were 5 years ago, there were changes to this moment here in 2024, and you made it through. And so the patterns of our days, Robert Brummett reminds us, are marked by endings and beginnings. The sun sets and the sun rises. And he writes, every one of us is an integral part of the cosmic dance of the universe. Isn't that beautiful? Every one of us is an integral part of the cosmic dance of the universe. And so major life transitions, including the life of a church and its cycles, because we've seen this church has had its life cycles. Our lives have life cycles, and they're opportunities for transformation. They're opportunities for a spiritual rebirth. And transition is change. And as I spoke about last week, we tend to resist change. We like the familiar. We start to get anxious, worried about the unknown. And our culture, which has been pointed out by social scientists, psychologists, Robert Brummett, and anyone paying attention, we don't do change in a healthy way. We don't know how to do change. And maybe we may even say, I'm okay with change, or I'm willing to be changed. Yeah, I can experience change. And yet, subconsciously, we tend to resist change, or we hold on to the past. And if we're holding on to the past, that's resisting change. Do you come from a family that says, well, we've always done it this way? Yeah, that's a resistance of change. So ultimately, when it comes to life changes, the question that we start to play with or think about is, what is the meaning? What meaning does this change have, this event have on me? What does this change mean for me in my life? We want to, especially if it's a sudden loss or a death, we want to make sense out of it. And Robert Brummett says that while the event, of course, is going to alter our lives, it's actually the meaning we apply, the meaning we give to the event that alters our life even more. Yeah, take a breath. You're all like holding your breath right now. Okay, let's breathe. Yeah. So there are events that happen. The loss of a job, the loss of a friend, a family member, even a pet, a house that burns down, right? There's these things that happen, and some good, new job opportunities. It will alter our life, but what meaning we give to it is what's going to alter our life even more. It's the power of our thoughts. It's the power of our words that we teach all the time in Unity. So during those times when it feels like life, it's like an earthquake, and an earthquake is hit, we feel like we're standing on shaky ground. Maybe again, a sudden change in work, job status, income change, retirement, sudden loss of a family or a friend or a pet, moving to another state, selling your home of 18 years or 50 years. Or I know somebody even said, oh my gosh, I suddenly got a new belief system and like my whole world changed. So these moments make our foundation, he points out, feel threatened or diminished or taken from us. Like part of our life is being taken from us. Have you ever said or heard someone say, it felt like the rug just got pulled out from under me? That's how sometimes these big life changes can happen. Because as he says many times, Robert Brummett in this book, and as what I've experienced, is that every change is death. Every change is a death. It's a death of an old way of being. It's a death of an old way of living. It's a death of an old way of doing something. It's the death of not seeing someone anymore. And then that change brings up fear of life not being the same. What do I do when that person's not around? What do I do when that cat I didn't even like is not around? I mean, our cat had PTSD. We adopted it from my brother. The cat wasn't nice. I know that sounds mean. It wasn't a nice cat. And yet when that cat made its transition, for a month I was mourning that cat. This is where it used to hiss at me. This is where it would leave fur balls all the time, right? Yeah. How will it be, the fear of it not being the same? And yet, Robert Brummett writes, to be fully alive, we must be willing to be changed, to surrender into the moment without resistance. To live fully is to realize that death, any type of death, is but a harbinger of new life. In other words, change brings new life. Of course, because something new is emerging now. Life looks different now. And because each of us are unique expressions, and with our own unique life experiences, we will each react differently to change. So author Stephen Levine writes, Buddha left a roadmap, Jesus left a roadmap, Krishna left a roadmap, Rand McNally left a roadmap, but you still have to travel the road yourself. So as you travel that road, know that it's okay to have all the feelings. It's okay to have all the feelings. Even driving here today, I mean, Ventura County is beautiful, right? I was on the 118 Simi Valley at 23. We go through farms, and I'm thinking, no more cows, buy cows, right? Buy green hills, buy. And then in the next moment, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I love the desert. I know I'm crazy, everybody, but I love the desert. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, and then I'll be driving through this beautiful desert. I mean, in an instant. And then I'm back to like, I'm going to miss all, I'm going to miss. I mean, Betsy emailed this morning because she's sick, and she wrote, I can't even tell you the email she wrote because I'll start crying. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to miss everyone. I love you all. And then I'm excited. And I mean, it's like in that 10 seconds, right? In change, especially good change, this is what can happen though, in all change. Again, even with the crazy cat we had, right? With my grandmother's death, one moment thinking of wonderful memories with her, and the other sad about that last visit I didn't get in. So with change, wow, our feelings can be all over, and we just have to honor all the feelings, that it's okay not to show up as your best self. I'm going to give you permission for that right now. Because your best self during life's big transitions is your best self in that moment. I remember when a friend's husband died, and she said, oh my gosh, I feel so bad because I'm like at the bank and suddenly I'm crying, or I'm in the middle of the store and I'm suddenly crying, and I feel so bad. And I said, no. Honor the feelings. Honor where you are. If other people are uncomfortable with that, that's them. They're an adult. They can take care of their feelings. But you need to honor where you are with this transition. We're doing the best we can in any moment. I'll just do a public apology right now to my husband, Juan, because I have been grumpy lately. I'm so glad we don't have the cameras pointing this way yet. And so I start to go down that path, right, of shame, of should. I start to should on myself. I should not do this. I should not be grumpy. I should know better. And then I stop myself and I go, no, I'm here. I'm here. This is where I am right now. That doesn't mean I'm going to keep being grumpy towards Juan, because I do want him to come to Arizona with me, by the way, Tom. So I'm going to honor the here while also not being impossible to live with. But we live in a quick fix culture, right? Quick fix culture, did I say that right? And transition and change is a process. Hear that again. Transition and change of any kind, of any size, is a process. And we, like nature, need to take the time to harmonize with the natural flow of a new way of life, a new way of being. You know, a new stream takes its time to work through the sand and the rock to carve a path before it flows. And so here's where trust and faith come in. that during times of transition, including the life of a church, that we trust the process has certain elements that occur in the right order, in the right time. When selling our home, we didn't want two payments, right? We didn't want a mortgage and a rent on the other side, but we trusted the process. There actually was not a time that we even doubted that we would kind of be holding both. We kind of just knew and trusted this is just going to happen. And again, house listed on the 2nd, offer on the 7th, escrow on the 9th. And it's actually to the neighbor's daughter who we've seen grow up over the last 18 years. Do you see there's an order? But it's because we just kind of trusted and said, well, of course it's just going to sell before we leave. There was no doubt. So like nature, we can trust our intuitive wisdom that is within us. We can trust the intuitive wisdom within us and around us that everything is happening in the right order. It's so interesting. Robert Brummett points out that in Chinese, the word crisis, because change oftentimes will feel like a crisis, crisis in Chinese is a combination of two words, danger and opportunity. One translation reads it this way, opportunity riding on a dangerous wind. And a lot of times when we're in crisis, doesn't it feel that way? It feels like we're riding a dangerous wind, and yet, again, where's our thoughts? It can feel dangerous, and I can see it as an opportunity. So in other words, transition can be an uncomfortable time, but it's also a meaningful time. The process of selling home is uncomfortable, and yet looking forward to decorating a new home is meaningful. This process, as we go one leadership to another, right? It could be like, oh, wait, what? Stacy did it this way. Okay, well, Sherry's going to do it this way. Molly did it this way. Not that I heard that from any of you over the last 4 years. And Stacy did it this way, right? So there's those uncomfortable changes, and yet it's a meaningful time because Reverend Sherry Hersey's already so excited with new ideas and plans to continue to carry you all forward. Yeah, it's a meaningful time in midst of the transition. So change creates new, different realities for us, and by understanding this transition process, we can facilitate the birth of new life versus living in extended pain. So again, we start with the ending, and then the void, the feelings of emptiness or confusion, or maybe a little chaos, the wandering in the wilderness. Again, and that's true whether the change or transition in life is wanted, expected, pleasant, or unwanted and unexpected. And then there's that new beginning and path forward. But with any change, as we let go, we're going to experience grief. Because we let go and we experience grief to a different way of being. So even if the change is pleasant, there's still letting go. And remember that grief is love. Grief is really a sign of love. I have loved my home so much and all the memories there. I have loved this community for 18 years so much. The grief is the love. Here's what Robert Brummett writes. He says, grief is not just a symptom of being wounded, but it is a part of the very process by which we are healed. When we allow ourselves to grieve fully, we are reclaiming the natural self. Grieving our loss is a major step in coming home to our true self. And sometimes the grief will open up and touch up to past grief. So when my parents sold their home, it was in our family for 50 years. And I didn't really cry because there was a lot of feelings, but I was just helping them get from one location to the next. And 50 years of family stuff. We were like finding stuff from my grandfather up in the rafters of the garage, right? It was so intense. And then it was about 2 or 3 months later, our neighbor, we were close to them, but not that close to them, and they said that they were moving, and I started bawling. And I was trying to figure out, why am I crying about this? And then I realized, I'm not crying about this. I'm crying about this. So when there's a change and a loss and we're letting go and there's maybe grief coming up, then there could be acknowledgement of other grief. Oh, I remember this now, right? Our heart now. But remember what I always say about tears. Tears come from our heart. Again, right? The tears wash through our heart. It's the way that we heal the heart. So there's no single right way to experience an ending. He says it's important to allow ourselves to have our feelings and to be cautious in making major decisions. I feel like that's the waiver when you go into like surgery and stuff, right? They're like, we're going to put you under. Don't make any major decisions in the next 24 hours. Right. So feel all your feelings and maybe don't make major decisions. But again, it's important to trust that you've been guided, to turn within to your own internal knowing and intuition. Remember, your intuition is that link between you and the universe, you and God. So know that you're being guided to the next step, and that next step will be revealed. The beautiful part about the in-between, what he calls the void, the not the ending and not the beginning, is that there is a transformative process that lies in that experience. And the transformation that lies not actually even at the arrival, but it's in the process of. What you're going to remember is the process of. Where the transformation happened is in the process of. I was thinking about, with weddings, right? You remember the engagement. The wedding day itself is a blur. I mean, it's a joyous blur, but you don't really remember anything. What you remember is the planning along the way. And I remember telling friends, and when I was a wedding coordinator once, remember this part of it. This is the part you're going to remember. And that's true for change, too, and transformations, transformative experiences. These transitions, it's in this process from the ending to the beginning where the change happens. And you can call upon, because you've all said you've experienced change at least in the last 5 years, you can draw upon the strength and your wisdom that you've walked in your past change and bring it to your current situation. Trust your I am wisdom. Robert Brummett writes, within each soul, a divine plan guides the evolution of that soul. Within each soul, a divine plan guides the evolution of that soul. You can say that for yourself. Within my soul, a divine plan guides the evolution of my soul. And open your heart to the process. Here's where Khalil Gibran, the poet, writes, and could you keep your heart in wonder at the daily miracles of your life, your pain would not seem less wondrous than your joy. And you would accept the seasons of your heart, even as you have always accepted the seasons that pass over your fields. And Robert Brummett writes, each season of our life is to be honored. These times can teach us much if we listen. So opening your heart to the moments of light and beauty on the path that is from the ending to the beginning. And self-care. He talks about self-care. We were just in our membership class yesterday. Our code of ethics mentions self-care. You know, I talk about self-care a lot because, again, when you are going through change and especially that unexpected change in our lives, taking care of yourself, go slower, sleep, move, exercise, journal, meditate, trust, but don't push. I've really been watching myself. I just can't push right now. And so when we arrive at the new beginning, we discover what is our soul's deepest desire because our worldview has changed, our inner world has changed, probably our outer world has changed. A new beginning is where the external starts to reflect the internal change that's happened. The story goes that after Buddha's enlightenment, he was walking down a road And a man saw him and noticed his extraordinary presence, and he said, "Are you God?" And Buddha said, "No." And he said, "What are you?" And Buddha said, "I am awake." Be awake to change. Be awake during the void. Being awake during the awkward in between. Be awake to what your soul is calling forth. Be awake to your new beginning. But life is a dance. So surrendering to it, be open to each and every experience in life, and in the non-resistance, you will allow yourself to live each of your life's moments fully. Dance and allow the world to unfold around you and within you. So say it with me. I'll say it first. I am awake.
I am awake.
I am ready to dance with the changes that life brings. I'm ready to dance with the changes that life brings. Let's say it again. I am awake.
I am awake.
I am ready to dance with the changes that life brings.
I am ready to dance with the changes that life brings.
And yes, you are. Thank you for listening to my self-talk this morning, everyone. Blessings.